Hello out there. Hello out there. This is Pamela Fagan Hutchins, and you found me on the Next Chapter podcast. And today I'm excited to be speaking with GP. See, I'm already going to mess up, guys. You know it's me, GP Gottlieb. And we're going to be talking about her latest mystery, Charred, from her Whipped and Sipped series. GP, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Pamela. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're just down the road from me this week, straight down the interstate in Denver.
That's right.
We're practically neighbors.
Practically.
Well, Wyoming and Colorado were separated at birth, but your book series is not set in Colorado. It's set in the other home of your heart, Chicago. Can you tell us a little bit about the series?
Sure. They're set in the Lakeview neighborhood, which is the tip of Lincoln Park, near Lakeshore Drive by the Belmont Harbor. And I live in a high rise that looks out over the Lake Michigan, for those who don't remember. And I set my stories starting in about 2019, although I started writing in about 2015. I switched things along the road. And they're set in a coffee shop in that neighborhood.
Nice. And it's a unique coffee shop, especially if you were to imagine. Now we're talking to people in Wyoming instead of Chicago or Colorado, but its uniqueness is it's got a vegan baker.
That's right. And so there's no eggs or dairy. And it's a culinary mystery, so I bake everything, and I love inventing baked.
Well, foods. I read Charred a couple of days ago, and the payoff at the end, turning that last page and seeing all the recipes from the book there, I was so excited.
I couldn't do all of the recipes. There's too many mentioned.
Yeah. The pumpernickel bread. You had me with pumpernickel bread as I was going through the book. And for those that haven't read Charred, it is the favorite bread of a endearing character that's in the book. And I was very excited to see Peter's pumpernickel, although I don't think you called it that, but in my mind, it was Peter's pumpernickel.
It's a sourdough pumpernickel.
I love that. And I am non-dairy and my husband's gluten-free. So I was like, come here, look at these recipes.
Yeah, a lot of them are gluten-free. I don't do consistently gluten-free, but
hey, everybody can always make their own modifications as well, right? So, but recipes aside, which for me were a big highlight, your series is a mystery series. What got you interested in writing culinary mysteries?
First of all, I should say I was not trained in writing. I probably wrote only 3 papers in all of college because I did undergrad and graduate degrees in music.
Nice.
Piano undergrad at Indiana and master's in voice at New England Conservatory. So writing wasn't a thing that I specialized in, but I always loved writing stories and songs. And it's a whole long story, and I'll try to do it in a nutshell. That in 2014, I was diagnosed with cancer. It took a couple of years to battle, to recuperate. And during that time when my mind wasn't working well because of the treatments, I was kind of muddled, but I always loved reading. And for some reason, little mysteries, mostly cozy mysteries, were super fun for me because even though I just didn't have a lot of brain power, I felt like I could always figure out who the villain was.
Yes.
And it made me feel like a genius.
And it's a great distraction when you're going through something like that. I'm glad that the books discovered you and you discovered them.
That's it. And in cozy mysteries, the sweetest, nicest person is the one who's either going to be whacked or be the killer. So I thought, one day I thought, like, I can do this. And I started, and I came up with several really dumb, long, windy manuscripts that didn't go anywhere. But I was determined. And one day I saw an editorial in the Chicago Tribune by a woman who was also a breast cancer survivor who taught writing at both universities, had taught at Northwestern and was teaching at the University of Chicago in the old, I forget what it's called, continuing department.
Uh-huh.
And I found her and started working with her. And I always joke, she's an author and a phenomenal editor. And I joke that I have my MFA from the University of Sandy Weisenberg.
What a great person to meet and a great friend to make. So, so you started writing then after you'd recovered from the treatment, or did you start when you were still in the thick of it, the battle?
While I was in the thick of it, I was just hoping I survived. And then once I came out on the other end, I thought I have to make meaning out of my life for whatever time I had left. And I wasn't going to be able to do many of the things. Music was no longer a thing that I could do. And I just had to reinvent myself, as many of us have to do.
I love that. I tell you what, there's a lot of people out there listening to this right now that are getting excited about the idea of successful reinvention and embracing changes that you might initially perceive as losses, as opening up space to do something that you've never tried before, and the meaning that comes from that. So I'm clapping. This is a tennis clap so that I don't do it into the microphone. I'm inspired by it. It's fantastic. And so you started with this series, or had you written other books before it and then came upon this during your journey?
Well, remember I talked about the windy, long manuscripts that didn't go anywhere? Yeah, I had a couple of those.
Yeah.
And then I sat down and said, okay, now here's a murder that happens.
Yeah.
Why? Who did it? Who had the means and the motive? What happened? But I'm not as interested in the actual murder. I don't want to read about or write about the trajectory of the bullet or the blood. And I always joke about this. If somebody gets stabbed and blood drips on the rug, I always make sure to mention that she never liked that rug, or for a new rug. I'm concerned more with the puzzle of the human reasons behind why would somebody wreak havoc.
Right.
Why would they destroy other people's lives?
It is the most interesting part. And when you think about the books that you enjoy, the books that I enjoy, the books that people watching this enjoy and follow, they're following characters and they're following stories. They're not following usually the science of how the bullet went through whatever, which can be interesting, but that's not what people follow. You know, not my audience. Some of the people out there are going, yes, and others that have never talked to me before are like, no, I like a really, really gritty procedural, and that you should do what you like. But we like character driven.
Oh, right. And I loved in Livewire.
Yeah.
I loved how you did that. We find out about her past and we understand her what's going on with her and why she didn't end up with Hank, and what. I love that part. I love authors who write luminous prose, weave timeless themes into their writing, and turn like everyday lives into something like art. And I love being drawn into the worlds of great authors, or even just any authors who know how to make characters who are relatable.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is really who know how to tell a story.
Right. You know, it's when you can feel the feels. I don't know about you as a writer, but I feel, I'm gonna use the word feel 10 times in this sentence. I feel really excited as an author when I'm writing and I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but an emotional just come out of nowhere, just burbling up inside you. And it's like the character inside you already knows something sad's about to happen or something really happy. And, and, you know, to me, that is what I love as a reader too. And so I really enjoyed going through your stories. First of all, very, very, diverse cast of characters that feels like you've really stepped into Chicago, you know, as opposed to stepping into a place where everyone is just the same, right? It's a diverse city. The cast is very diverse, and the way in which they meld together and the ways in which your main character, if I say her name wrong, please correct me.
Aileen.
Okay, I was going to say Aileen. The way Aileen parents, the way she navigates her relationship with, not a spoiler, she's in a relationship with a homicide detective. All of those things are what keep me glued to a story, because I care about those kids and what happens next, and did she mess up her relationship, and all of those pieces. I care about the murder too, but I really care about following characters like Aileen, and I think you guys will too. If you haven't discovered this series yet, I hope that we're painting you a path that leads you to Whipped and Sipped. Now, the first book in the series was
Battered.
Battered. The names are great, you guys. All of them have a cooking motif to them. So I jumped right in with Charred, but I didn't find myself lost at all. I didn't find myself feeling like I had needed to start at one, but I felt like I would have wanted to, because I would have wanted to make the journey with the characters. So, you guys should know that it is a dive in wherever you want to, but the best payoff comes with starting from number one. Or would you say that about your books as well? Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
you're very welcome. And so, are you as avid a baker as it comes across by these books? You're really into it, huh?
I just love it. I did take some baking classes at the French pastry school in Chicago, but I had no intention. This is post cancer. It was just one of the many things I did to enjoy life again. And I loved it. But then, because of the dairy situation, I know how to bake with cream and eggs and butter, of course, and 2 cups of sugar. Of course, you're going to get a delicious cake. But my goal is to create, the way I always have baked is to sneak vegetables into everything and fruits. My kids never knew that there was zucchini in every single chocolate cake.
Isn't it the best? Or you take that leftover kale or whatever, and you're making a soup, and you're just like, no one's looking, and you throw it all in there, and then they never know. So one of the things I loved in the book was the popsicles with zucchini shaved into the frozen fruit that Aileen made for the kids and her father. So I felt like, I get this woman. I get her.
I really did that when my kids were growing up.
Hey, I look at it as you've got to protect those little brain cells, and then later they'll thank you. I'm sure they're doing it to their own kids now. Or I don't know. Are your kids healthy in that way, like you were, or are like you are?
So some of them, a couple of them are. And my eldest daughter, I see how she does it, and she cooks a full meal every night, and there's so much healthy. But when I bring cookies, they're always there's no sugar. I use maple syrup, and there's always something. There's secret ingredients, and sometimes she says, "Mom, could you please just make one of your old chocolate chip cookies?"
Oh, well, I have a daughter who in high school developed anaphylaxis, and it was a reaction to genetically modified gluten. And so everything about my cooking changed. And these were kids that were normal kids. Their favorite food is macaroni and cheese, and they're, etc. The things that I haven't eaten in so many years now, I can't even think about. But back then, that's all they wanted. And overnight, our lives changed into finding ways to cook that would rebuild her gut biome, and all of that. And then my husband's celiac. So, between the two of them, I've become quite the gluten-free chef, and minimizing the sugar and replacing it with the honey and the maple syrup and all of those kinds of things as well. But I was very excited for the recipes at the end of your book, because I was like, I can work with these. I barely have to modify these.
I'm especially known for my dips and sauces, because my refrigerator always has a dip of some kind. And when I say dip, I mean, it could be an eggplant, baba ganoush kind of thing. It could be a tahini. It could be a hummus. It could be, I have radish top right now in my fridge. So you could use so many different vegetables. And once you serve it with appetizers, with crackers and crudité, it's delicious. And
exactly.
You could take a giant head of cauliflower and turn it into a little bowl. And so every dip, it doesn't matter. I don't care what chips they use. Every single one brings up nutrients.
That's great. That's absolutely great. So there was a radish top pesto. I mean, I was really in the book. I was really into the food in this book, in case you can't tell. I must have been super hungry when I was reading it. So you have a fourth book in the series coming out next year. What is the process for you of envisioning the next book and putting it together? Do you have, do you put yourself on any kind of schedule? Is it comes as it comes? What is GP's flow?
I think of a social problem, an issue, or something that's happened that I've read in the news. I'm thinking right now of Charred. Relatives of mine who are in real estate development
Yeah.
had this horrible experience of one of their buildings that was in still being built. It was just the bones were of the structure was up, burned to the ground. And it was a huge, nobody ever figured, it was a huge fire, burned to the ground. Nobody ever figured out the cause. Was it lightning? Was it arson? Nobody figured it out. And the insurance companies from all around got involved because neighbors were affected by the smoke and by the whatever.
Right.
I was so upset by it when it happened and watching the anguish. Nobody was hurt. So I imagined, what if somebody died in that fire?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how that one Charred got started. Each one is something. Pounded is about real estate. Again, relatives in real estate is about somebody in real estate who is now trying to fund affordable housing, like being really good. It sounds like a great person, but it turns out in his past, he basically ripped off a huge neighborhood in a small town with fake contracts and took over, pushed out people from their homes of 30, 40, 50 years, mostly elderly, mostly Hispanic and Black, and built a giant development. And it happens all the time. So I heard about something of that sort happening. And
you think that could drive someone to murder. Well, and it was one of the things that I enjoyed about Charred as well, was that it was a neighborhood that had some opposition to the building that was going up, that was going to be some affordable housing of different levels within the building, and taking that on at the same time, as you mentioned, that this was during the pandemic, at the same time that businesses were shuttering and pivoting and trying to survive, and the violence that was going on with vandals and looters and things like that. It really painted a vivid picture of a city under siege. And, all of that just felt so perfectly in place there. Plus, we run the house that we live in as a lodge. And I remember during the pandemic, Wyoming was not very closed. We've been social distancing since our inception, right? There's not many people. And so our lodge was still running. We live on a different floor as the guests. They could have the whole house to themselves upstairs. So it was a place people could come and felt safe. We had a couple from Chicago that came towards the end of the summer, and they said that there were so many fires in their neighborhood back in Chicago that all they wanted to do here was sit and look at the horizon and be able to not see smoke, and it really gave me some survivor guilt, about here I am living in this beautiful place where I'm not affected by what's happening to the rest of the country, other than it's breaking my heart. And also feeling very, so happy that they were able to come find a place to get away from it. And it reminded me so much of them when I was reading the book, and that firsthand account of what they were going through during the pandemic and during that summer, the summer of George Floyd in Minnesota, etc., and those fires in Chicago. And here's Chicago again on fire. Well, not on fire, but dealing with smoke this summer.
Flooding right now.
Flooding now. Boy, Chicago's having some fun. No.
Great city.
Aside from that. Yeah, it's really one of my favorites. And so with respect to your series, do you see an end in sight, or for you, is this a cast of characters and a setting that is fertile for you, and you feel like I'm just going to keep going and going and going with it?
It's such a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I'm working on Pounded is coming out in March. I'm about 20,000 words into the 5th book, Grilled.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love the process of, I love that first draft.
Yeah.
Coming up with the story, because you don't edit yourself, right?
Right.
Tell all kinds of side stories that nobody needs to know. They're going to go.
Right. Maybe they'll be cut, but the creation part, yes.
I enjoy it. And
yeah.
who knows? I love writing short stories also. So I've written a bunch of them for different things, for anthologies, and some of those characters are kind of draw me in.
But then there's that whole, it's tough when you start cheating on your series with different characters, and all of a sudden the relationship keeps drawing you further away. It's like having a book boyfriend over there, it's like, no, I'm married to Whipped and Stirred.
Yeah, but you write different series. How do you do that?
And I'm really miserable with it right now. I had up until around 2017, I had never cheated on a series. I always got through that character and whatever arc I wanted to take that series of books on. And then my father developed cancer and was given 3 months to live. And I decided to drop the other books I was working on and do a book inspired by him. And I sat down with him, talked to him about what kind of character he'd want to be, etc. He thought I was crazy. And I started writing as fast as I could. Fast forward 9 books later, my dad's still with us. My dad's a survivor, like yourself. And now I'm writing several series at once as a result, because it interrupted some flows. I was under contract for some other stuff. It makes me crazy. I can't remember, all the details, especially with some of these long running series. So a long way of saying that I become a believer in not cheating on your book husband with your book boyfriend, to stick with one. And right now I'm in the middle of this torrid affair with 4 series, and it's just, it's killing me. But that's very much lucky author problems there. So I won't complain about it anymore. I'm very happy that people like the series and that I get to continue them. So there you go. Long way of answering your question. But I've loved writing the books that are closest to home for me, about the things that I love, like you love the baking and picking a setting that you love. For me, that it just feels like you're always in France. Yeah. It's lovely. Absolutely lovely. And so you are super involved in writing groups from what I could see. And is that something that you have made part of your entire journey? Are you a big believer in the writing community, or how does that, and a podcaster as well? You've done 200 and
over 280.
Yeah. So a lot of podcasts. You stay busy. So you've really jumped in with, both hands and both feet to the writing world because it's only been 10 years for you since you started, and it's very impressive. Do you sleep?
That's right. But I'm not writing 4 series. I am just, right now, I'm doing the publicity stuff that I'm supposed to do. And I'm trying to get 500 words a day. I don't manage on book 5. And writing guest posts and all the things that we have to do. The part about writing groups, I feel so lucky to have been invited into the Blackbird Writers. It's an amazing group run by Tracy Phillips, who just during COVID decided she decided she needed a community of writers.
Yeah.
And randomly, I happened to find her and she invited me in. It's so lovely to work like it takes a village,
Right.
It's lovely to have people support you, and when a new book comes out, they respond and they read it and they review, and I also love Sisters in Crime, and I'm involved in both Chicago, where I run the book group that we just started last year, which is fun, and we invite authors from all over. We haven't yet because it's but we decided to, and also in Colorado, where I spend a lot of time. So I'm in the Sisters in Crime here, and I love the women here. I've made a
That's
lot
great.
of friends, and we have a wonderful time talking about writing, and we, again, support each other. I did a book event yesterday at Barnes and Noble in Colorado, here in Denver, and a woman came up, a young woman who wants to be a writer, and she has a manuscript and had never heard of Sisters in Crime. Like, that's the first thing you have to do. There's a called Guppies for people who aren't published, and they offer classes and webinars and Zooms, and you'll make a community so that when your books come out, somebody will say, somebody will review it even before it gets onto anyone else's screen.
And people that have been through the ups and downs of what you're going through will empathize with you when you're having one of those days where you've lost your confidence or have imposter syndrome or whatever it is. It's so nice to connect. It's one of the reasons when we moved, when we were living in Texas, I ran the Houston Writers Guild and was members of many other groups, but that was our big local one in Houston. It's hard to even say local with a city that big, but big local one. And then we moved to the country, and it was before the pandemic. So it was really before Zoom just took off, and I felt so isolated. That's when I started podcasting, because it was like, well, if I can't go to them, I'm going to invite them to me. But it really, it helps salve that feeling of I'm all out here in a vacuum doing it by myself. And, even in a solitary kind of introverted profession, as we've embraced, you still need other people,
Exactly.
Just like our characters do. That's why we don't have single character books usually. I guess some people do. I don't find those
not in the mystery world.
And not in the mystery world. No, you need a lot of messy humans to create a mystery.
Or at least one person and then a dead person.
Exactly.
Okay, that's true.
Well, I sure do appreciate you coming on and chatting with me for this long. I know that my longtime readers, listeners, watchers are going to just be delighted to discover Whipped and Stirred and Charred. And I encourage you guys, go back and start with book 1 and run the table, because you want all the recipes. Although there's recipes on your website too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I should throw that up on the screen for those that are listening with their ears only and not their eyes. G.P. I'm still having trouble with the difference between a G and a P. G.P Gottlieb, GOTTLIEB.com. And you can find the books, you can find her podcasts, and you can find those recipes. I know I'm going to go out there and try some more of them. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Pamela. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you guys for tuning in and coming along with us for the journey. Bye, everyone.